All right, here's something new. It broke overnight, and it's a Fox News alert. A federal appeals court in New Orleans has blocked a Texas migration law that would allow police in the state of Texas and elsewhere to arrest migrants suspected of crossing the border illegally.
That action happening just hours after the Supreme Court allowed it to go into effect.
I'm getting whiplash. Doug Luzader is live in Washington with the latest. Doug.
Need a flow chart here. Good morning,
Right.
guys. This has been a game of judicial ping pong over the past 24 hours. Texas officials barely had time to celebrate what was a Supreme Court win yesterday before they faced another setback. So do the migrants stay or do they go? Just hours after the Supreme Court cleared the way for Texas to begin enforcing this new border law, this new state border law, a federal appeals court blocked it again, stunning those who have been keeping a close eye on what's becoming a critical test for the nation's immigration system.
Texas, SB4, Operation Lone Star, they're doing more to help protect that border than everybody except maybe the front line of DHS. And they wouldn't need SB4 if the federal government was stepping up to its responsibilities to protect that border.
The now blocked Texas law would make it a state crime to illegally cross the border into Texas. The Biden administration says only the federal government can enforce immigration laws. And while the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision yesterday, agreed to allow Texas to begin applying the new law while the legal battles play out in lower courts, the decision overnight from this federal appeals court means it's on hold again. And the ramifications here go well beyond just Texas. Take a look at the border apprehension numbers from just last month, from February. Efforts in Texas to crack down on border crossings may be shifting the crisis to Arizona, California, and New Mexico. And of course, we know the impact that this crisis is having on big cities to the north, like New York and Chicago. To begin enforcing this new border law, this new state border law, a federal appeals court blocked it again, stunning those who have been keeping a close eye on what's becoming a critical test for the nation's immigration system.
Texas, SB4, Operation Lone Star, they're doing more to help protect that border than everybody except maybe the front line of DHS. And they wouldn't need SB4 if the federal government was stepping up to its responsibilities to protect that border.
The now blocked Texas law would make it a state crime to illegally cross the border into Texas. The Biden administration says only the federal government can enforce immigration laws. And while the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision yesterday, agreed to allow Texas to begin applying the new law while the legal battles play out in lower courts, the decision overnight from this federal appeals court means it's on hold again. And the ramifications here go well beyond just Texas. Take a look at the border apprehension numbers from just last month, from February. Efforts in Texas to crack down California and New Mexico. And of course, we know the impact that this crisis is having on big cities to the north, like New York and Chicago. Mexico, by the way, said they would not cooperate with this new Texas state law. They would refuse to take back any migrants sent their way, even though they would have crossed over from Mexico. Back to you guys.
It's hard for him just to stand in the river then. That's crazy. All right.
Thank you,
Doug, thank you very much.
So Supreme
Thanks.
Court makes the decision that
After a lower court, the Fifth Circuit weighs the merit. Well, apparently that particular statement appeared to have an immediate effect on the lower court, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and they quickly scheduled a hearing for this morning and blocked the law. So essentially the Supreme Court said, okay, after they rule on it, we might take it up. And the lower court said, okay, then we're going to take it up, and they're going to take it up this morning.
Very similar to the Arizona law that passed with Jan Brewer all those years ago when Obama was in office and she was governor of Arizona. They wanted to crack down with their version of SB4, and everyone was told, oh, this is terrible. You don't like Hispanic people. Now America's matured to the point where this is an absolute crisis, and this governor offers it up because the federal government is such an epic fail and we're absent when it comes to border security. They make their own wall and say, now we're going to deport on our own. Dan Patrick basically wrote it as lieutenant governor, and then it's been working its way through the courts. So the oral argument should be interesting. Bottom line is, illegal immigrants will soon learn that if they're going to come, it's going to be through California, New Mexico, and Arizona. And if this thing could possibly put into play, it'll be a template for the other governors and pressure on all of them to do what they're supposed to do. And I love the fact that Governor DeSantis is going to also look at his illegal immigration thing and go back to send it back to Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah.
Here come the Haitians. There they go to beautiful Martha's Vineyard.
Well, I'm just looking at the numbers. In February, if you look at the southwest border apprehensions, in Arizona, 54,000, California, 33, New Mexico, 12,000, and Texas, 42,000. That's a total of 141,000. That's like, number. Isn't that like Michigan Stadium, which is the largest college stadium, times like 1.5 or 2?
Well, it's over 100,000 in
It's
Michigan.
bigger. I think it's bigger than
So
Topeka,
it's 1.5
Kansas.
of those. If you've been in that stadium, it's massive.
Right.
Okay, so you've got the problem on our southern border. Meanwhile, you've got all the problem in Haiti, and that's one of the reasons. Well, I told the story like 2 weeks ago. I was down in Florida, and I saw this police checkpoint, and it was because there was a boat full of Haitians had just come ashore in Jupiter Island. This morning, Lawrence is down in South Florida. And Lawrence, when I told that story, it's like, oh, that's going to be a problem for the people of Florida. But Florida is getting ready, aren't they?
Yeah, so you got two prongs of problems right now, guys. You guys were just talking about the court systems working their way through SB4. And a lot of the criticism when it comes from people on the left is not really warranted because there is a compassionate approach within the law. SB4, when you go to the second degree misdemeanor, which is the 6 months that they can imprison you for a first time offender,
right.
They give you the opportunity to go back to Mexico if you want to. But if you're a repeat offender, then you got that class, the second degree felony, you can be in prison up to 20 years. But at any point, if you want to go across the border, it gives you that option. The whole point of the law was to say, listen, no more catch and release, and to have an actual deterrent. Because right now what you have is people coming across the southern border saying, I'll just offer myself up because I know I'm just going to be released in the country. So you got that problem. Now you have, every time in Haiti there's some type of civil war or some humanitarian effort, they start making their way across sea. And so you got Ron DeSantis, who's been great on this issue, actually. Before any governor was sending the National Guard, he sent the National Guard as well as the Florida Fish and Wildlife to Texas to train, to learn the drone technology, to learn how to patrol by sea. Mm-hmm. Now those same guys are here in Florida, and they're patrolling every day, preparing for this massive crisis. I talked to them yesterday. This is what they had to say. So tell me, Colonel, what are we seeing right now with the Haitian population and them coming to Florida?
Well, what we're seeing is, with the instability in Haiti, the likelihood of migration is a lot higher. We recently had an intercept on February 29th at Sebastian Inlet, where our officers intercepted a boat coming in the inlet with 25 Haitian migrants. So we're out here prepared to address those issues of an increase in migration.
So, guys, it's not a constant flow like you see on the southern border in my home state of Texas right now, but they're preparing for this crisis. The journey to come across sea is way different than coming across the Rio Grande, guys.
That's
but
right.
They're ready for it.
Right. It's extremely dangerous, but they're not looking for get their boat licenses. They'll grab any boat and just come across. And then when you talk about unrest in Haiti, this one was because they assassinated the prime minister and the first lady behind it. The new prime minister named leaves the country. They lock him out. 8 gangs take over, and now we're going to give him $150 million and ask him to fix things. Doesn't seem to be working well.
Right. Well, one of the problems is, and Lawrence, to your point about the seas being dangerous between Florida and Haiti, and now Cuba as well, just 90 miles off the Florida Keys, is the fact that so many, and we've been talking to people down in Texas, they're seeing so many people from Haiti. It's easier for them to fly to Mexico and then wade across the Rio Grande rather than actually get in a boat like we're seeing right here where people were stopped. But one of the problems for the state of Texas, or rather the state of Florida, Lawrence, and you can speak to this, is what they're doing is they're working with the Coast Guard and they're trying to stop these boats of Haitians and others before anybody's able to set foot on shore. But that's a problem because it's not like Florida's got a Navy.
That's exactly right. And to put it into context, you're exactly right. The Coast Guard is like the first defense line.
Yeah.
The only time the Florida Fish and Wildlife Agency gets involved, which is their state police agency, is once they go past that perimeter. They're out of international waters, and then they hit Miami,
right,
or anywhere in Florida, guys, the Keys area, anything like that. So again, like I said, the journey is tough. A lot of these folks, they're abandoning the boats. They think that they've hit land, which they have. But then you're talking about like a 4 to 5 mile swim.
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to make it. So what ends up happening is these become rescue missions where these people are about to drown, right, and then Florida Fish and Wildlife have to rescue these people.
Yeah, Lawrence, it's frustrating when you see that Ron DeSantis is taking action in Florida. Your great governor, Governor Abbott in Texas, is taking action. But then you have the Biden administration who overnight filed this emergency application for the appeals court. They acted quickly, and now that law is put on pause right now until they can discuss it further. But when you look at the polls, you look at the AP poll, it shows that 36% of Hispanic adults, only 36% approve of Joe Biden. Look at this poll. Hispanic voters prefer Trump over Biden. This is the New York Times and Siena College poll. 46% prefer Trump and only 40% support Biden. So when you see these numbers and you talk to people who did it the right way, they're very frustrated with all of these individuals coming across the border and being allowed to stay, and Americans pay for it, and then you hear about the crime that's associated with it. Joe Biden knows he's behind in these polls, so he's going as this 3-state swing through Nevada and Arizona and Texas. This is what he said to the Latino voters in Arizona.
You're the reason why, in large part, I beat Donald Trump. Yes. Let's beat him again. Well, I need you. I need you badly. I need the help. Kamala and I desperately need your help.
It means that Kamala, I assume, the vice president.
Yeah.
What he's trying. One thing, this totally throws the Democratic game plan over the last 20 years into the sea, because they thought the more Hispanics we get through the border. Remember in 2008, Mitt Romney had a very low number on Hispanic vote, and they said, well, you should have been more of an outreach and talked about your family's role in Mexico. That would be one thing you should do, is never talk about being tough on the border. That was the so-called autopsy of what's wrong with the Republican Party. Now things have switched. When Trump came out and said we're going to build a wall, leave a door for people, and Mexico isn't sending them their best, Democrats laughed and they said, great, this is what we need. The president, the nominee, vilifying Hispanics, and therefore we'll just grab the rest of the vote. And then when the president came down and said, used terms like poison, and a lot of people here are not human that are getting here, they said that's perfect language. Well, we'll make believe the president hates Hispanic people. Bottom line is, no one's looking for Joe Biden to distill what President Trump means. The Hispanic community gets it. He is not against anyone in the Hispanic community. It's illegal immigrants. It's immigrants that come here to kill, to rob. It's people who are breaking our laws. And that is why it's the upside down world in the Democratic mindset. How the hell is Joe Biden losing to Donald Trump, who continues to talk strongly at the border as late as this past weekend? It's because the Hispanic community gets it. And they're not upset with the Roe v. Wade being overturned in many cases, because they're an extremely pro-Christian, pro-Catholic community.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why Joe Biden, according to his campaign, is going to Texas and Arizona to re-engage the Latino community. When you look at the polls, and Ainsley just cited how the president is underwater with Hispanic voters. He's also underwater. He's going down in the number of black voters who helped him get across the finish line last time. And so this essentially, the campaign believes that the tune-out voters are finally starting to re-engage. But here's how the president missed a vital opportunity yesterday. He was in Arizona. He could have done something about the border because that's the #1 issue, but he didn't talk about that. He's going to Texas. He's going to do some fundraisers there. He should go down to the border and he should talk a little bit about how it's the #1 thing impacting people. And it's not just down in Texas, and it's not down in Arizona as well. In Massachusetts on Friday, the governor, Maura Healey, who is a Democrat, she was asked by Boston Channel 25 News about that case where we were telling folks about Corey Alvarez, 26-year-old migrant from Haiti, once again, charged with raping a 15-year-old disabled girl at a migrant shelter. And what the governor said has now infuriated people throughout New England. Listen to this.
It's a horrible situation, horrible allegation, and my thoughts are with the victim and her family. I think that we have the right systems in place. Unfortunately, this is a terrible incident. You don't want to see anything like this happen. This is also an individual who came in lawfully under the federal government through a federal program. It is unfortunate that from time to time things will happen.
From time to time things will happen, Lawrence.
I mean, what an awful thing to say. And just remember, this is the party that continues to say they are the most compassionate, except for when you're an American citizen and something happens to you from an illegal. I mean, to go to the point that you were making, Steve, earlier, is that why isn't the president willing to visit the areas that have been impacted the most if he's the most compassionate? Because he knows that his policies are now on the ballot to the point of black voters and Hispanic voters who are obviously minorities, and why they're not going along with the Biden administration, because it directly impacts them. When the criminal elements come across the border, what communities do you think they're going to live in? When people come across the border that are poor and that can't get proper work, who do you think jobs they're going to be taking? So whether it is the criminal element or the economic element that is happening, our communities are being impacted the most, and the Democrats continue to say they don't care.
He won't even patch a hole in the fence. That's why he doesn't go to the border. There's a huge hole in the fence. The senators won't even address it.
These Democratic leaders, when you see how they handled Afghanistan and said they didn't, what did Kirby say? He said, I didn't see it as a crisis.
From my perch, I didn't see chaos.
I didn't see chaos when you have people hanging off the planes. When you have this Democratic leader in Massachusetts, the same one that was dressed up like the Dunkin' Queen instead of Dunkin' Donuts, a play off of that Super Bowl ad with J-Lo. Yeah, so this was the video we aired yesterday. It's the Massachusetts governor, female, lieutenant governor's a female. It just shocks me out of a female's mouth that she would say, imagine if this is your child who was raped, says it is unfortunate from time to time that things will happen. This is a child. This is a person. This is someone who will deal with the effects of being raped for the rest of her life. And so just to see the tone deafness there, and Joe Biden not even mentioning Laken Riley's name until someone gives him the pen and he's shouting from the audience, mention her name, and then he mispronounces her name. These are individuals, these are Americans that are affected by this Joe Biden crisis.
All right, Lawrence, we'll check in with you a little bit later. Meanwhile, it's time to turn to the headlines, Ainsley.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Overnight, the D.C. Attorney General dropping charges against the Gold Star dad that was arrested for protesting during that president's State of the Union address, his speech a few weeks ago. Steve Noki is the father of 20-year-old Kareem Nokui, one of 13 U.S. service members killed in a suicide bomb during the Afghanistan withdrawal in 2021. The Attorney General's office says it has not prosecuted protesters in the past. Noki says that the news brought him to tears and that he is thrilled and humbled. The United Cajun Navy is ramping up its search for missing University of Missouri student Riley Strain. He vanished 12 days ago after leaving Luke Bryan's bar in downtown Nashville. The group that usually works to rescue storm victims is organizing searches in and around the Cumberland River, and Riley's mom, who asked them to join the effort, breaking down during a news conference yesterday.
We really are focusing on
bringing Riley home.
His last point.
He's my best friend. He's everything.
The 22-year-old's debit card was discovered near the river on Sunday, not far from where he was last seen. And caught on camera, a Long Island Railroad rider is slashed in the face with a box cutter after asking another man to stop blocking the entrance to the train. My goodness. Officers say the victim was also beaten with one of the attacker's shoes. The unidentified suspect was arrested and charges are still pending. Happening today on Capitol Hill, a group of Hunter Biden's former business associates, including Tony Bobulinski, is set to testify before the House Oversight Committee. It's the latest phase of the Biden impeachment inquiry. The president's son was invited to testify as well at Hunter's request, but his lawyer rejected the invitation. The committee says the hearing will go on with or without him. And now to another royal retouching controversy. A leading photo agency is questioning another picture that was taken by the Princess of Wales, wondering what's going on in all these photos. The photo in question features the late Queen Elizabeth with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Meanwhile, an investigation is launched after Kate's medical records are reportedly involved in a security breach. According to the Mirror, a staff member tried to illegally access her information, and the person who shot the TMZ video of Kate's first public appearance since her abdominal surgery is speaking out. He says people are, quote, delusional for believing social media rumors that the woman in the video was not the Princess of Wales, but a body double.
Of course.
Those are your headlines.
All right, I'm going to look into that in the break. Meanwhile, I just got to remind you to DVR the show. You could make it a series and make your life easier. That is an option.
That's right. And that way you can just play the DVR over and over and look at it. Is that Kate?
Right.
I wonder if that's Kate.
Quiet down, kids. I'm staring at a video.
Yeah.
All right, 21 minutes after the hour. She's responsible for blowing the...
Donald Trump and 8 other co-defendants have filed an emergency appeal in the great state of Georgia to remove DA Fani Willis from the election interference case in that state.
Steve Sato, Trump's lead counsel, writing, quote, the motion notes that the court found that Willis's actions created an appearance of impropriety and an odor of mendacity that lingers in this case, but it nonetheless refused to dismiss the case or disqualify her. She's still on.
Our next guest initiated this effort to remove Fani Willis from the case. Ashley Merchant, we've been watching her in court. She joins us now for a Fox and Friends exclusive. Hey, Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. What happens if the Georgia State Senate does find that there's misconduct?
Well, they're actually looking at a couple different things. They're looking at changing laws, if there's any laws that are in place that they need to amend or change. They can also remove her from office. Our governor just signed a law that now has oversight over district attorneys, and so they actually can remove her from office. That's a law that's going into effect this summer. So I think we'll be seeing a lot of investigations coming. There's a lot of information that wasn't necessarily relevant to my motion that I wasn't able to bring in court, but that other agencies are also investigating.
Absolutely. And of course, we were all watching you live on TV back in February. I'm sure you got a lot of text messages and email from friends and family. We've got a snippet of, here's a little flashback. Here you are grilling the current DA, Fani Willis, about the whole situation between her and Nathan Wade, who would eventually, far after this, resign from the case. Listen.
I don't remember the dates, but you're an officer of the court. I'm going to hope you're telling the truth now. May I approach the witness? Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head? So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
So, Ashley, she called you repeatedly a liar, and I know you were attacked viciously online and elsewhere, but you feel that ultimately Judge McPhee's court decision saying one of the two of them has got to quit, Nathan Wade did. You've been vindicated, right?
Yes. Oh, definitely. I mean, I was called a liar so many times, but every stage of the process, I was vindicated because everything was proven in court and all of the sources of my information were finally verified. And so everyone actually finally knows that those calls of me being a liar were not accurate.
So, Ashley, I have to say, the whole time, it was one surprise after another. From our perspective, we couldn't believe what was taking place. Fani Willis was not supposed to go on the stand. What were your thoughts when she says, obviously was going terribly in the morning. So she lines up and she just launches into that seat. What are you thinking? I know you know the case and I know why you brought it forward, and its relationship is what had this judge entertain it. So what are you thinking?
I mean, at that point, I was surprised that she came in, but I would want to defend myself if someone had made allegations that I was claiming was false. Sure. What surprised me was that she didn't bring anything to actually back it up. So if someone had accused me of wrongdoing, I'm going to bring my phone. I'm going to bring my text messages. I'm going to bring my bank records. So that surprised me that she didn't bring any actual proof. We just were stuck with her word that she paid back these transactions in cash. I would have brought transaction slips. I would have brought a lot of information if I had planned on taking the stand. But it definitely surprised me, and we're not supposed to be watching the proceedings as a witness when they're going on. The fact that she knew exactly when to come in, I got to ask her about that on the stand, but it appeared as though she had been watching the proceedings, so that was a little bit surprising as well.
She's lied. That means she lied. She said she wasn't supposed to be watching. She clearly lied. She lied over and over again, and she seems to be getting away with it to a degree.
Yes, and I think the judge pointed that out in his order. He talked about her demeanor on the stand. That's not what I think you would expect to see from the sitting district attorney, from a lawyer on the stand. I understand she was defensive, but being defensive is one thing. Bringing proof, bringing evidence to support your claims, that's a whole different story. And then just really lashing out the entire time at how angry you are for being victimized, in her words, that was a little bit surprising.
Ashley, you said that people are coming out of the woodworks with more leads, and you give an example talking about the forfeiture funds. Explain to our audience what that is.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different funds that the district attorney gets. They get federal funds, they get state funds, and particularly what you were asking about is forfeiture funds. That's when the government takes someone's property or takes someone's money. And then the district attorney has those funds and they're able to use them. The thing is, the law has very specific requirements for how you can use those. And so she's getting federal forfeiture money, and that is being used to pay Nathan Wade. We've tracked over $100,000 in payments to him just from forfeiture funds.
And you're not allowed to do that, right?
That's one of the things that's being investigated.
You're not allowed to pay lawyer fees out of federal forfeiture funds, right?
You are not.
Yeah. So Ainsley was talking about how people now, after you went on TV and this case was revealed, are coming out of the woodwork with other details about what went on between the two of them. But it all started with a tip. Who told you guys, hey, you know what I just saw?
Good question.
Where'd that come from?
Right. That came from Nathan Wade's best friend and law partner. So at the time, they were law partners, and he represented him in a divorce proceeding, which when he told me this tip, I didn't even know he represented him in the divorce proceeding. I had no idea. I thought they were just law partners and friends. But he's the one that tipped me and another one of the attorneys off and started talking about all of the different things that he had witnessed. And so we started investigating and follow up and do, things called open records requests and talk to other witnesses and sort of verify all that information.
But I just want to bring up this. You also revealed the invoices and the meetings in Athens with White House counsel. When people say there's no link between the White House and the Georgia case, what did you reveal?
Oh, there's definitely a link. I mean, a lot of the billing records show that, Nathan Wade was reimbursed for trips to Washington, D.C., that he met with J6 counsel. He met in Athens. He met in Washington, D.C. I also got records from the White House showing that not only Miss Willis went there, but other people in her staff went to the actual White House. So they have tracking data on who enters the White House, how long they're there. I was able to find all of that information. So there was quite a bit of information linking this back to D.C.
Ashley, is there a chance that she could be disqualified? Is there another route for that? And what happens in all the other Trump cases?
I mean, I definitely think she could be disqualified. We've got this new commission in Georgia that's hopefully looking into this, and they could disqualify her. There's a lot of other avenues that the judge even outlined in his order. Lots of other people are looking at this. She's facing re-election. She's got two opponents right now. So there's a lot of other checks and balances that are in place. Plus, more information can come forward, and we are continuing to investigate.
Right. Ashley, exit question. I know you're only involved in one of Donald Trump's many legal cases, but, there are a lot of people who say that Democrats and the legal system is set up to go after the former president. What do you think?
I think that at this point, it's in excess, and there are a lot of people out there that are waiting for their day in court, and I think they should get their day in court. There's a lot of people in civil cases that cannot get trials until 2028. I mean, we're regularly getting trial dates for 2028, 2029. Why? Because the docket is being crowded with other cases. So I think there's an issue of judicial economy. Other defendants are entitled to their day in court. So I just think at this point, we've got to look at the big picture and start to think about judicial economy and think about the rest of the American public that actually wants to get into the court system.
Right, and just real quick, we only have 30 seconds, but what's the schedule? When's the next time you have a hearing? When's the earliest this thing could be a trial, if at all?
Well, that's a good question about the trial, because right now we're going to do the appellate process. And so, we should know by the end of the week if the judge is going to give us the appeal. If he does, then we have to ask the appellate court for the appeal. But it moves pretty quickly early on. If we get the appeal, it's about 6 months for the appeal to actually work its way through the system. So I think we've got some time with the appeal.
Well, the schedule is much different than Judge Judy. She's able to...
Federal appeals court blocking a Texas immigration law that would have allowed police to arrest illegal border crossers just hours after the Supreme Court approved it.
I shouldn't have went to bed last night. I thought I had one story. We have a different one. Meanwhile, South Florida is bracing for a surge of Haitian migrants fleeing the growing violence in their country.
And they come here in those boats like you see screen right. Lawrence is down in Miami for a first-hand look at how local law enforcement there is preparing for the surge. Lawrence.
As Haitian illegal migrants make their way across the border by sea, they're met by the Florida Fish and Wildlife. Let's go check it out.
Our men and women, this is what they do every single day. They're out here on patrol with, of course, a focus now on the migration that could potentially be happening. They look for any suspicious activity, if it's a vessel moving too slow, if it's a go-fast vessel coming from offshore. It could be that a boat looks heavily, significantly overloaded. And what we've seen in the past is anywhere from 25 to 30 on a go-fast type vessel to 100, 200 on a 30, 40-foot older style sailing vessel.
So tell me, Colonel, what are we seeing right now with the Haitian population and them coming to Florida?
What we're seeing is, the instability in Haiti, the likelihood of migration is a lot higher. We recently had an intercept on February 29th at Sebastian Inlet, where our officers intercepted a boat coming in the inlet with 25 Haitian migrants. So we're out here prepared to address those issues of an increase in migration.
How do you separate the ones that are coming for asylum and the people that are here just coming to break the law?
Any ones that are coming through the ocean, this is not one of the.
It's not a port of entry.
This is not a port of entry. We conduct an intercept, and then what we do is we will call our federal partners, either the Air Marine Unit of Customs and the CBP, or the U.S. Coast Guard, and then we turn them over to them.
You got the Coast Guard out front, and you guys are here to protect Florida, essentially.
That's correct. So the Coast Guard typically will handle the federal waters. They're out there on the big cutters. We are protecting. We're the last line of defense here in the state. So we typically will stay within state waters, and if for some reason the vessel gets through that layer with the Coast Guard, we're here to conduct the intercept. A lot of it is just being out here. That's why, with the leadership of our governor, we've got more men and women out here conducting the mission, because the more of us that are out here, the better chances we have to intercept a vessel before it comes into our state.
So it looks like the governor is already anticipating that you guys are going to need more resources. So you got more equipment, but you also got more manpower coming your way.
That's correct. So we've added 32 officers from the Florida Keys all the way up the East Coast to St. Lucie, Martin counties, whose mission is specific to be out here patrolling and looking out for potential migrant situations and intercepting them. We monitor that on a daily basis with our teams that are out here patrolling, and if we absolutely need to shift more resources, we will.
And guys, there's just simply quality law enforcement out here in Florida, much like Texas. And I think the difference maker is you got to have a governor that wants to enforce the law when the federal government refuses to do so. A lot of credit to Ron DeSantis, guys.
No kidding. He lets them do their job.
And he gives credit back to them.
And he listens to the voters.
There you go. All right, Lawrence, great reporting. Thank you very much.
Talk about great reporters. What about great anchors?
She's amazing. She is incredible, Carly. Oh, who, me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you guys. Shucks, I was hoping you would be talking about me. And here you All right, well, to live up to that high standard, I will deliver the news right now. We're starting with a Fox News alert. Ohio Republican Senate candidate Bernie Moreno slamming his Democrat opponent after winning the GOP primary.
Well, it's going to be very nasty for one reason. Sherrod Brown can't run on anything other than nastiness. He has no record. This guy is an abject failure.
Moreno was endorsed by former President